because I got some feedback from people that I listened to True Feedback on, and it was a bit shaky. I think I was just nervous being on here with both you guys and doing everything, yada yada yada.
I'm also just going to stay pretty much quiet, so don't worry about me too much. I'm here to learn.
Yeah, let me make sure this is going live. All right, so we are. So when we're here looking at the Daytona 500, this is a situation to where and people always ask me, because I don't show this much on live streams anymore, but I have all the data in different sheets looking at different optimals and seeing where people come from and seeing where the positions work and yada yada yada. I've made that playlist that I've been adding on to nearly every NASCAR video I've uploaded here at TrueDFS. It's like 5.5 hours. It's literally like all the prerequisites that you need when you're approaching these. So like if anybody feels like I'm not answering something specific, or I'm kind of going over stuff very fast, or whatever the case may be, I've covered all that stuff in there. This is one just specifically for the Daytona 500, and specifically this video is going to be me speaking about the $25 millionaire maker, because look, if somebody comes in at 20% owned, that's 20,000 lineups, if not more, because it's like 105,000 people in there. That's like over 20,000 lineups with that driver. Like, ownership is going to be huge here, because that's like that in the $3 contest are the main contest on DraftKings for this event, and ownership is going to be huge here. And so when we look at how to approach it for this, regardless of how big or how small the contest is, we are not playing the top 10 guys. That's just how it is. If you're playing the top 10 guys, if you're playing anybody in that range, in my opinion, you're paying the rake. There's just absolutely no reason to take that big of a risk and play anybody in the top 10. We're going to have popular plays that are going to carry ownership in that range. We have Chase Elliott, we have Denny Hamlin. Those are guys that I have no interest in playing, and I would recommend that nobody plays those guys. Just let people make the mistake of playing guys up top or starting in the top 10. Let them make that, and just not be a part of that group. When we look at the rest of the field from 11th to 40th in this race, we have to categorize people differently in the sense of who is like a good driver who actually has upside and who can win this event in any aspect, whether it's a wreck fest, whether it's this race goes green, whether it ends under rain tomorrow. Yet, for those that don't know, the Daytona 500 has been postponed to tomorrow evening. There might still be rain in the area, but regardless, these are like the good drivers in this race that can score well in nearly any circumstance. And so when we look at those, I'm going to categorize those as my rankings of A, because they're like good drivers, they work, and you're going to see that they follow the chalk pretty well, and they're chalky for a reason. They're going to be up there, and they can work in a lot of situations. And so Brad Keselowski is the first one there. We have Bubba Wallace, who has an average running position inside the top 7 in like every single race he's been in with 23-11. Corey LaJoie, who has been optimal in like 10,000 races here. Ryan Blaney, who is probably going to be the most popular play on the slate, starting 32nd, built-in place differential, going to be running in the top 10 all day. Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., David Reagan starting last is probably the safest play on the slate. I want to add that when we look at this race in terms of other contests, I would personally recommend not playing cash for anyone, because I used to play cash for these events specifically, and what I would notice is that people who play cash and the cash lines are playing optimally. Like, they have much better lineups than the lineups that are played in GPPs. And so, like, if you're playing cash, you're like, oh, this is a cash line. Yeah, it's a cash line because it's going to score well. Those lineups score incredibly well in GPPs. And so, like, I just don't see the risk of why you would even want to play cash today. And so when we're looking at plays that people are going to be popular on because salary doesn't matter, we're going to have a lot of David Reagan, Kyle Busch, Stenhouse, Ryan Blaney. And I imagine that the people that I have listed as A, we're going to see at least 2 of these guys in nearly probably 66% of all the lineups. Like, Ryan Blaney might push 40%. As I said, that's close to 38,000, 40,000 lineups. Like, this is a situation where we're looking at why guys are good, because the stats and how they race and what they do shows that they're good drivers. But when we look at them in a DFS aspect, we have to get different. We're trying to finish first in this contest. We're trying to at least cash. Like, we have to beat, like 80,000 lineups to even be in the cash range in this contest. Like, we have to, get off of the good plays, off of the chalk, off the people who are showing good on paper, and play people that I would rank as like B tier and C tier type of drivers. Those drivers would be, Austin Dillon, Riley Herbst, Hemrick, Gregson, Barry Gillen, Truex, who has like Truex is the worst plate racer in modern NASCAR because he just wrecks in every event, but he's in a top tier car. We know that the manufacturers are going to work together. He's in a Toyota. He's going to be riding with Bubba Wallace. He's going to be riding with Denny Hamlin in these races. And when you look back at the races he's been wrecked in, he's literally racing with Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace. He's the one who gets caught up in the big wreck. And those two guys are the ones who, escape and finish optimally or finish in the top 10 or whatnot. Like Truex is honestly a great tournament play today because people are going to say he's one of the worst drivers ever. He's horrible, yada, yada, yada. And Priest. And so when I start looking at guys like A's are ranking of like truly like good plays, they know what they're doing, the car is good, they're going to be popular. B's are the guys that I would want to be overweight on compared to those guys that I'm categorizing as A. And then when I'm ranking them in terms of like talent and things of that nature, it makes Kaz Grala, A. Allmendinger, Anthony Alfredo show up because less ownership should be on these guys because they're quote unquote worse drivers. But in terms of where we want to build for DraftKings, I'm actually going to use the guys I'm going to highlight here. This is going to be my main people that I'm going to be overweight on compared to the field. And it is these guys in blue here that I'm going to highlight. And if you've been with me during these other shows, which have been doing phenomenally, you're seeing that, hey, this is kind of the same way I've been approaching these races as well. And how many people we got in here so far? 47 right off the bat. Thank you guys for being here. Nice. I have found one thing, and real quick, I'm going to need your help on this, Sheets, because I have found that I know who you are. I know who Bobby is, but there's a lot of people who don't know who you are, Sheets. And before I get into all the semantics and your history and everything, can you just answer this one question for me? How many $100,000 to win contests have you won in just the month of February?
Sheets' favorite thing to do is bragging about himself, huh?
I had to set him here. He's won 2 just in the month of February. So like, people who might not know him,
depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was waiting for a chance to ask some questions. So since you mentioned my name, I figured I would chime in here. So for those of you again who are just here for Brandon, which I imagine are a bunch, right? We don't really even know who Bobby and Eric are, right? So we have TrueDFS. We're giving them a platform to do the NASCAR stuff, among other things he's doing for us. And I've been doing DFS for a couple of years. Bobby's been doing it for a lot longer, and I try to embrace all the different sports because I think they all have different characteristics. And I was originally a Brandon Cruz fan is the wrong way to put it. Just someone who absorbed his content on a regular basis every week. I always have very critical questions about how to play different sports. That's why I like to ask him questions that are really just kind of geared towards ownership and geared towards line of construction. And when you put the two things together, like my ability to kind of like make lineups and make portfolios out of things maybe I don't know as much about than other people, with his fundamental knowledge, I think we might be onto something. And hopefully Bobby's going to embrace a little bit more of this as we continue to do this. And not to brag or whatever, but like just to give you an example of what goes on here is that when we did the dual races, I ran some sims, I ran some of my nerdy stuff, building lineups. And then we were going through the live thing, Brandon was going through his top picks. And all I was doing really is just upping all my exposure based on what Brandon had. Really, that was my hashtag process, And ended up, and of course there's a special toggle in Saber Sim to click if you want to run good. I know where that is. You have to kind of really look for it, and I've been really pretty good. I know exactly where that run good toggle is. So I clicked that double time for the duel, and I ended up picking it and then chopping it one way. So here's a couple of questions I have.
Real quick, I don't think they can hear. There's an echo, and people are having trouble hearing. I know that. Something that maybe is, I don't know if she's using YouTube on or something in the background also, because it sounds like you're double saying almost what you're saying.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know what to tell you. You want me to get out of here? I mean, I don't know.
No. It might just be a mic thing or something.
But I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe it's coming in. Maybe someone else has the YouTube thing on. Do you have it on? That's coming through secondarily.
I don't have it.
I don't have it on my end as well.
Well, you tell me what you want me to do, but
I'll try muting while you talk. See if that makes it any better.
all right. What I was going to say is that and here's an observation I had when I first learned how to play the Daytona races and the plate races. It seemed to make sense, play guys in the back because of all the reasons why you play guys in the back. There's a lot of wrecks, the cars race all together. And then the natural thing that I first asked myself is if everybody knows this, right, and we're trying to get unique, why don't I just play guys in the front? And this is my thought process going into DFS NASCAR, right? Why don't I just play guys in the front? If everybody's going to play guys in the back and everybody knows it and everybody's obviously doing this, I should just play guys in the front. And I did that a couple of times. And I can't give you all the stats or the data. All I can say is that, yeah, it's a good idea philosophically, but you're just losing. as Brandon was saying, like, yeah, you're getting unique and you're finishing uniquely in last. Okay, like that's what ends up happening. The edge in fading those top 10 cars or top 10 spots is statistically and mathematically just way more important than it is to get unique. All right, and that's my own bit of advice to you. Now, here's another thing that is going to seem like a contradiction to that, but think about this. I bet you if you went back and looked at like all the optimals and all the winners, invariably there's going to be one guy or maybe two guys that are in the top 15 or something like that happen to make it in the winning lineup. But that doesn't mean that you should set a rule that to put one from the top 10 in the winning lineup. You know what I mean? It's a difference. Just because something happened doesn't mean that you should, force that same scenario to happen again. The math is still the same, that all those top 10 things are really, really tough to get home. But so just don't rely on, I would not rely on like past trends of like, okay, there's always someone from the top 10 in the winning lineup. So let's force in someone from the top 10 in the winning lineup. Okay. That's the first thing that I would say. And the second thing I would like to point you guys to, and again, we're in no time crunch because the race doesn't go until tomorrow, right? So I just wanted to point, since I have to leave in 20 minutes anyway, there is a lot of stuff going on with lineup builders and sims and things like that. And I will just say to you guys that although I use the sims like all the time, okay, NASCAR it's a very nascent field when it comes to using sims and optimizers to project stuff. And not to get too into it, but just as an example, Saber Sim, who, listen, they're my favorites, right? I mean, I've been using them since, for anybody. Even they came out with a revamp of their sim model, basically admitted that last year they were hopeless, and had no idea what they were doing, and we went through, with Brandon and another guy from the Discord went through a little bit of that. And it's probably better this year, but the point is that this is not a sport where you could just, and I'm not saying there's other sports that you can, but there are other sports that it's easier to do. You can't just jam in projections and run the sims and win in the sport. I don't know exactly how you can, how to win, although I'm trying, but this is not a sport like, I don't want to get into it, but there are some other sports that more conducive to just running the sims and plugging shit in. NASCAR it's not so easy for no other reason than the sims themselves and the lineup builders themselves are just new, and they're not smart in the AI term of smart, and they just don't have enough experience running these things. So you're unfortunately or fortunately for Brandon, for us, you're going to have to get the fundamental takes and get that kind of, get that extra stuff that can let you do stuff like for example, in the dual seat, I don't even know how it turned out, but actually it did. And I got nervous for a while. There was like these sims, these models that were just pumping out like JJ Yeley lineups, right? Like it was going out of style, right? It turns out he wasn't owned after all. But for a while, I'm sitting there. He was like in 16th and 17th, sitting there in like the main pack. I'm like, oh my God, kill me, right? But it turns out he just had no chance to make it in there. You know what I mean? So the point is that, again, this is not a sport to rely completely on optimizers and sims. And just while you guys have your attention, Brandon is very, very good at getting different without going completely ballistic. Like I remember watching his own videos. He was saying, "Listen, I'm playing the Daytona. I'm playing whatever. I don't really care if I hit the optimal. You know what I mean? I'm playing the best plays. I'm getting unique enough. And if I chop it with 47 people, that's fine by me. You know, or if I come in third or fourth or fifth, that's fine by me. I'm not going to be the one that says I have to go for the single hit. You know, otherwise I'm just not doing my job. So that's my kind of like introduction to this whole thing.
Well, thank you for explaining that and really opening that up. That's one thing that I just don't see in a lot of other contests, just being like brutally honest with, at least in videos, like being brutally honest of like this race here is truly just, how do you get different without being stupid? And I mean, I've highlighted these guys, and we're going to kind of go over the rest of like how you would realistically do it. Like for me, when I'm like looking at where I want to truly build the majority of my lineups, I'm doing 100% like playing guys from 25th on back, but I can only afford to do like, 12 to, depending on when this stupid League of Legends contest pays out, like 20 lines in the 25. But if you're running, if you're like adamant on running sims and adamant on running optimizers, I would have the player pool be from 17th to 40th and mandate at least 4 cars from 25th on back in your lineup. If you're building anything other than that, I think you're absolutely just hindering yourself. You bring up optimals and how they look and stuff. I have to thank ACS for collecting this data for me so I can have it. When we look, these are optimals. These are not necessarily the winning lineup in DraftKings contest. Now this is for Talladega, and then this one has it for Daytona, and we've even gone farther back and looked at races that DraftKings wasn't even on or operating races from like mid 2000s. This is the 2001 race, whatever. And you typically see that you're going to need a majority of the field coming from the back of the field. When we look at the second race in 2020, the top scoring guy, 2 of the top scoring guys came from the top 10. Was this in the optimal, but between all the lines that you can build? Most likely not. We see guys in the top 10 be optimal, but the issue comes from, especially in races like this, when as I said, it's 105,000 people. People will see this and be like, well, when we look at the optimal lineups, we see a lot of guys starting inside, the top, like here's a 6th place, Ross Chastain in 2022 at like Talladega and stuff. We see a 4th place here at Eric Almirola. Well, that means I need to at least get some guys in the top 10, and that just, your line's dead. Your line is screwed compared to like if when lineups come to 1v1s, which is really what a race like this comes down to. Most of the time, winning lineups are going to have 4 similar drivers, and it'll just be 1-to-1 or 1v1s for your last 2 guys. If you play Alex Bowman starting 7th, and I play Ryan Preece starting 25th, and both these 2 idiots both wreck out and they finish 21st and 22nd, you lose because Alex Bowman just loses you positions. Preece scores bad. He gains 2 positions, but he outscores the people who start up front. This is where just why I enjoy these races so much, because there's so many people who are like, I don't want to play a bunch of quote unquote shitters. I don't want to play a bunch of quote unquote bad lineups or bad drivers in these, when it's like the only thing we're focusing on is ownership here. And you have to purposely like play the ugly plays, at least in the back half of the field, because they're not that ugly. There's a reason why I have the DNF factor here as high for everybody, as I say, and as we've seen this week, and as we've seen in previous races, typically 65% of the field is going to DNF in this race. They're not going to finish. What is that? 26, 25 cars or whatever. But when we look at the amount of cars that get damaged in these races, whether it be in the wall, a little tiny donut on the side, whatever the case may be, repairable, non-repairable, that number is roughly around 85% of the cars. Okay, so when we're looking at ownership, say on Ryan Blaney, like, chat, please let me know, who are you rooting for to be involved in a wreck today? Because I'm rooting for Ryan Blaney. When we look at Ryan Blaney, as I said, one of the most popular plays here, if he has 36, 35, 40% ownership, even in the 30s, and his likelihood to wreck is 65, 70%. Why not just play Todd Gilliland at lower ownership? He's the exact same play. He has the same likelihood to be involved in a wreck, and you just get different. That's literally the only name of the game for this event and for this race.
I want to challenge you on something. And again, part of this whole process, and the only reason I do this whole site is really so I can get better and to learn something and to continue to get better and to teach other people also. And if I can ever like teach someone else that knows more about me something, that's an extra bonus. So when you say stuff like I would force in the guys from 17th to 25th, what my natural instinct is that you don't have to do that, because if you're running your projections, then it's going to get you that anyway. Like if you run your projections, you put your stuff, whatever. And if you are projecting guys from the back, which you will, to score more points than the guys in the front, that I don't think that you need to necessarily just tell the optimizer, if you're going to use one anyway, to put the guys in from 17th to 25th, because it's just going to do that for you anyway. That's one thing that I would I don't say challenge. That's one thing I would just make sure to point out.
So for me, the answer to that question is something that I have been asked by other people before. And for me, this is how I personally answer it. Because for those that are on the TrueDFS website, subscribe to the NASCAR, you see my projections and stuff. And I basically use those for these races to build or to have an idea of ownership. Like with how crazy and wild that these races get, you have basically three camps of ownership, or three ways of doing projections. One is like the mean that most people do of like, well, we run this race 3,000 times in the computer. Ryan Blaney is your top scorer, whatever, in the amount. And so like his mean will typically be one of the better like projections wise. And I'll get to like the guys in the teens once I get through this point. When you look at it, the way that I do it is, and then we'll do another way that you can do it. The way that I do it is I'm just going to give Ryan Blaney, a top 10 finish, because that's most likely he's going to finish top 10 today. It's either he finishes top 10 or he wrecks. Like that's the same story for everybody. But in terms of projections and trying to figure out where ownership is going to go, I have to project everybody personally based on like their skill level. And so when we look back here, like Stenhouse is going to win the race or wreck. Kyle Busch going to win the race or wreck. Ryan Blaney going to finish top 10, win the race, wreck, et cetera, et cetera. When you get to projections like Kaz Grala, he's not going to win the race like in any form unless like everybody in this race dies. Like that is his only way out. So like his base projection in like even a mean setting, it's going to be incredibly low compared to the rest of the field. It might even be lower than what it should be. So like for me, I've just given like Kaz Grala, like he's finishing 24th. Like, I think that's perfectly fine. And once you do that with like, once you go through every single driver and you go through the good drivers and rank them above everyone, and you go to like the bad drivers, like say Anthony Alfredo, we can't realistically project him to like finish top 15, top 10, top 20 outside of a wreck. So when I'm doing projections, I'm projecting him like where he falls in terms of the skill of him, the skill of the team, which we've seen like these guys when Beard Motorsports run into issues, they just like don't repair the car because this is like a small funded team. They just don't. It's like any issue with him, like he's out of the race. We've seen that when Austin Hill was in the car. We've seen that when Noah Gragson was in the car. So like his base projection has to be around like a 26th to 30th finishing position. Okay. And so once you do that with everybody, I have an idea of kind of where ownership will go. The third way that people build projections, and that we've seen either with like some of the sim sites and stuff, to where they've like overestimated like finishing position or place differential. And I have done that in the past, and I got feedback that people didn't like how those projections looked, and I didn't exactly like how they looked. If you base everybody where like just the back works out, well, then you're going to have, as I just said, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace have skill. They're going to perform well no matter what the projection is. But when you start overvaluing all the place differential plays, well, then it makes Kaz Grala look like the exact same play as Ryan Blaney. And so like those are like your three different avenues of projections. And so going back to your question sheets of why I would, if I'm like if I was doing 150 lineups, I would be building hand building a lot of these. But in terms of trying to get one or two of the guys in between like 14th and 20th, depending on what projection set people are using. The optimizers may flat out not use this range, or like it'll prioritize other people. And so I'm not saying, I don't mean to come around of like, oh, your projection set is what matters, but in general, the reason why I would ask it to at least force in like one of these guys in the teens is because I don't think most optimizers and lineup generators will do that like naturally. In races like this, I think projections might push them off of these guys and overvalue some of the people. So going back to answering your question, that's why I said what I did in that sense.
Great. Just so you guys know, I probably have to bail out, so I'm going to let you guys handle the rest.
Yeah, thank you for showing up for the short time, Sheets.
No problem.
I do appreciate it.
Take it easy, Sheets. Yeah, Jolly in here asking my opinion. I'm trying to encourage him that you really don't want my opinion. This is all brand new to me. I'm here to learn. I'm here to support the team, and I enjoy hearing about it. It's something new that maybe I'll have an opinion on in 6 months, but it's going to be a ways before I do. Anyway, keep going, Brandon. I don't have a whole lot to offer.
No, you're good. I mean, I'm going to be here till at least top of the hour because you know, what I usually do is I go over like, the plays and stuff, and then I kind of just BS with the chat and have fun for like last 15 and stuff. But is there anything in the chat that, I mean, I'm going to read through it and stuff, but is there anything that anybody specifically wants me to look at, any certain drivers or whatever the case may be? Yet again, I don't make ownership numbers. I just kind of go with gut feel for a majority. But as I said, the guys that I have written for chalk, like, okay, Keselowski isn't going to be in the same range as Blaney, but when we start looking through, like, this is how most people will build a lineup today, I'm assuming, if they're at least familiar with stack from the back. They're going to be like, Blaney's a good play. I'm going to play Kyle Busch because he's better than some of these other guys back here. Reagan's starting last. He can't lose me anything. Corey LaJoie's been good. I need somebody starting up front, and then they start like, oh, Bubba Wallace can fit that. Oh, Chris Buescher can fit that. Oh, Keselowski can fit that. So that's why ownership will fall into certain categories here with certain people. And I've just highlighted these guys because, like I said, I think this is where a majority of the field is going to go, and this is really where we need to pay attention to and stuff. But let me go ahead and look through the chat and see what you guys are saying and stuff and everything. Let's see. Yeah, Billy, so we're racing tomorrow. Yeah, Sheets is an absolute legend. He's the most humble guy I've ever seen.
And by the way, his extensiveness of how much he's won on sports betting, gambling, DFS, everything is incredible, and it's very vast. It's a wide range of things that he's been doing this for a long time, and he's really, like, I would say, one of the better, sharper sports bettors in the whole world too. He's one of the horse racing legends. That's where the Sheets names comes from, and he's just been massacring DFS basically ever since I taught him how to play. So yeah, what a legend for sure. Brandon, are you getting an echo from me too? Oh, you're on mute.
I don't believe so. It's hard for me to test echoes like outside of real time stuff with Restream.
When we only had two of us talking. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're fine. And it's I mean I have my speaker coming through, but typically I've never had issues with echoing and stuff, especially with how low I have it coming through. So it might honestly be me, but at least we got all the good stuff.
Yeah, seems like it's all good now. It sounds like.
Okay, all right.
Come on, Højgaard. That's what I'm sweating golf all day. That's what I've got.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got going on here. Yeah. So Sterling is also a really good player. So I'm not saying every player is now under the TrueDFS Discord or under that subscription, but some of the most sharper guys, especially for races like this, Sterling in the chat, Astukas, ACS, the guy who helped me pull all that data and stuff, like these guys are very, very sharp. And so it's like Sterling going with a 16 to 24 group and saying it 0 to 2 with BK and Buescher like being the favorites. Like that's, as I said, like Brad Keselowski is going to be popular. We're going to see Buescher there as well. But that 0 to 2 group, or trying to mandate 0 to 2 people in that range is probably the best way to build optimally. As I said, like personally, I would probably cut it off here at 14. Like if we're speaking realistically, I think your actual playable drivers are from 15th to 40th today. I think truly anything higher up is just kind of throwing stuff away. Like nobody's going to own Zane Smith. If you're looking for like a low owned play, Zane Smith might be like 4% owned, but he's starting 14th. Like that's not him staying there or exceeding his finishing and or exceeding his starting position compared to everybody else and outscoring. Like that's just so hard for me to see. Like I fully believe the optimal will be between the guys back here, especially because when we look at other races, just really fast. Now I don't have. See if I have them real fast here. When we look at 2000, this is the 500 last year. I don't have the summer race last year, but when we look at the race, I do have some of the optimals here, so we can go ahead and continue to go through. When we look at where these guys started and who they started, specifically who, like Stenhouse, very similar position to where he's starting this year. He started 31st, AJ Allmendinger, 29th, Riley Herbst, 38th, Travis Pastrana starting dead last. And you have, a kind of wild and wacky play here with Suarez, and then you have a great player with Buescher and stuff. When we look at and like Buescher started 9th, yet again, this is optimal. I don't believe I have the actual winning lineup in here, but that's technically what the optimal lineup was. It left 13,000 on the table. Like salary means nothing here. When we look back at the second race in 2022, we see that this was the optimal, where it was just literally guys in the back of the field. 37th, 35th, 36th, 21st, 32nd, 34th. When we look at, and this is for Daytona. And so when we look at the 500 in 2022, the optimal lineup started 38th, 34th, 16th, 33rd, 5th, and 7th. Like if you're playing two guys there, like there's no way this actually like came through. That was the optimal. People are going to see this and want to chase that. I would recommend against that. When we see how actual like scoring is broken down compared to where people start. Yeah, sure. These guys scored okay with where they started, 4th, 3rd, 4th. Wait, my bad. That's 4th. I'm looking at starting positions, 5th, 7th, 10th, and 9th. However, like look at how well these guys in the back are scoring, how safe they are, how it's just I just don't see a reason to play the guys up front at all. When we continue to go back.
So can I ask you a real quick question about that? So do you literally mean like no lineups at all?
I personally never play anybody inside top like 20 because I do like 20 lineups, and typically those are literally built from between all three series. With trucks, you only have 36 cars in the field. With Xfinity, you have 38. With the Cup Series, you have 40. I personally never build any lineups that have anybody from 20th forward in them.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's just a totally new process for me to try to get my brain around that I would never have had to think of for any other sport. Anything I've done DFS wise, is there anything that you find somewhat similar to it? I mean, a little bit showdowny, but not quite. Like in football, like you have to play Lamar Jackson, but you don't necessarily the captain. You know what I mean? But is there anything you can relate it to anything else that either you've done or DFS wise?
No, and I think that's why I enjoy it the most. And it's like no lie, like I'm sure, like I win. I've told Bobby before that between the 96 NASCAR slates, my goal is to win like 1 or 2 a year, and I can normally get that done in some form or fashion. But a majority of those like good days have been on specific like plate racing situations like this, or the opening week when like ownership. Sterling brought up a great example in the comments. This is like Denny Hamlin, the first millionaire maker. Now he started 38th, but we've seen him start inside the top 10, carry ownership and stuff. But when ownership is on somebody, 55, 50, 45, like when we're getting up to those levels that we're going to see Blaney, Stenhouse, David Reagan at, LaJoy, Bubba Wallace at and stuff, that's literally half of the contest having these people. And when they wreck out, like you're gonna automatically jump over them. And even in bad situations, I typically can get all my money back. When we look at the truck race on Friday, for example, let me bring that up. And yet again, I guess I need to put the playlist probably in the comments of this video after the fact. But I talk about it in my playlist, and I've gone over how I build stuff. But this is how I built for trucks on Friday, and this is how I track everything and stuff. And so when I look at the guys who wrecked out in this race, Moffitt, Garcia, Lane Riggs, Ty Dillon, the way that I build lines is I track my ownership through like 11 15 lineups that I've built and stuff like that. The entire field was going on, Ben Rhodes, Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon was at like 44% or whatever, and he wrecks out. We have Lawless Allen and Keith McGee also wreck out, and these guys outscore Ty Dillon and Ben Rhodes with like 40% ownership, 44% ownership around that. These guys are at like 10. I think they're at 15 and 20. These guys score 12 and 12 and a half points respectively, like between the two of these guys. But half the field had Ty Dillon, who scored like, I think it was like 2 points, 0 points from around there. Ben Rhodes, I think, was slightly in the negatives. Like, yeah, sure, 12 points isn't the greatest thing. And that's like the worst case situation where the guys last like also wreck out, but you're still scoring better than 40% of the field with like 1-to-1, 1v1 drivers and stuff. And when I'm building specifically in the back, I'm playing the guys in the back. Like I am building just the guys in the back. The only way these races don't work out in that fashion is if they don't wreck. So like, yet again, people might be like, man, you're the worst type of motorsports fan. I'm like, at this point, I only root for wrecks. But if this race goes green, if it happens to end early before we have a big wreck due to rain or whatever, well, then these lines aren't cashing because they like nobody's wrecking out for these guys to pass and stuff. But going back to like you bringing that up, Bobby, like I think it's always worth being overly aggressive, playing guys from the back here in the situations to where they actually work or half work. Like half work meaning these guys in the back, some of them wreck out, or a lot of the field wrecks in this situation. They can't gain a lot of places, but then we also have people who are racing up front, wreck out later in the race, who also score bad. They have the potential of losing more points, even if these guys in the back don't pass them. And so you really have two outs when you're building this way. You have like the full-on wreck fest or like the half wreck fest. The only way this doesn't work is when nobody wrecks in these races, which is getting more and more unlikely to happen as the years go on and these guys have less practice and less time on the track, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I mean, I find it fascinating. I'm looking through right now, and I'm just trying to wonder, is there ever a time you would consider making an exception if the ownership was like, okay, we guarantee nobody in the top 14 is going to be above 5% owned, like theoretically. Not in
so
reality.
That happens. So I might, do I have, let me look here. I have so many emails to go through because I have so many Gmail accounts with so much data in here. Let me see if I can find optimals really fast to answer that question here.
Well, even if you don't take the actual history, like just even from a theoretical standpoint, just in terms of game theory, like, doesn't it make a little bit of sense if everyone goes left, you go right, like, you know what I mean, type of thing, where I'm guessing what you're saying is that most everyone is doing the same type of thing, or most good players are doing a similar type of thing that you're doing. But I would bet that maybe they include a little bit more of the 8, 9, 10 guys, or like, people play Denny Hamlin because they don't. People are new to DFS, new to NASCAR, might not know this. Trying to win $1 million, and might just play the names they look familiar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm just wondering out loud, like, about different ways, because that's a pretty awesome thing to just eliminate all that stuff. I love that way of thinking. I'm trying to understand exactly how much risk you're embracing with that, or are you not embracing are you embracing far less risk that way?
Like, I mean, realistically speaking, the only risk you're embracing is if this race doesn't have a wreck. So you're sitting there for like 3.5 hours, just please wreck. That's literally the only thing. The only contest I have, at least that I can find very quickly, is for an Xfinity Series contest last year that I have the ownership and stuff thanks to ACS again. And yet again, when we look at where people finished here, hey, Sterling won this one. I finished 5th. A lot of our guys in here. But nice. This is a great example of how ownership breaks down. We're not looking at the highlighted guys here. We're specifically looking at how the ownership breaks down. And so we have somebody starting last who 63% of the field had, 47% of the field had here. We're probably not going to get teams like this in this Cup Series, but we can see that like the good players carried ownership. When we start getting closer and closer up into this race, and yet again, this is Xfinity, there's some odds and nuances with people starting up front, being optimal more in Xfinity. But when we're looking at the ownership, so Austin Hill starting 26th is, in my opinion, he's not going to. Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott won't be at 26, but this is a great example of what happens in a race like this, to where the best car and some of the best drivers are starting up front. So Austin Hill started first in this. He carried 26% ownership. When we look at the race today, we have Austin Dillon, we have Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott in here. Between these two drivers, I think we're probably going to see a combined ownership of like maybe 26, 28% ownership and stuff. And when you look at how the ownership falls, and going back to your question, Bobby, of why I just X that out, if you did that in this race, you would have X'd out. And I know this is not like a 1-to-1, like some of these ownerships overlap and stuff, but this is a total of 160% ownership in these and stuff. And so realistically, you're probably just eliminating, I don't know, 20-25% of the field, like right off the bat. Like, yet again, that's why I'm saying, like, those guys kind of pay the rake when we're looking at how bad some of these contests pay out. Right. If you eliminate, your lineups against at least like 15% of the field at minimum, like that's like the first step of getting different. You don't have to worry about any of those guys up there. Then you're fighting against everybody who's playing these guys back here. Once you get past that, how do I also fade ownership? So I'm fading, or I'm getting off of 15% of the field here. Blaney's going to carry 30-35% of the ownership. So I go lower on him as well. Well, then at that point, you're different than half of the field, like right off the bat, or probably like 40 to 45, 46% of the field right off the bat. That's at least how I would answer that. And so for me, when I just don't flat out play anybody in the top 14, I don't view that as a sense of like, maybe I should have some ownership there. I just lean all into that approach.
That makes sense. I appreciate it. I may get running in a few minutes and go have breakfast. And my girlfriend thought that the early mornings were over with football season being over. And I said, no, we're going to try out some new things. So sorry about that one. We're going to have a couple Sundays where I have to do some of this stuff. By the way, shout out to SaberSim for this thing is awesome. Have you seen these things?
I wasn't with you guys when you guys got them, so I didn't get one.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry. I thought they sent them to everybody. My bad. It was cool. I just got mine yesterday, so I was like, oh,
yeah. What is that? Like a little JBL speaker or what?
Yeah, it's a little JBL speaker, but it's got the TrueDFS on there, and it's TrueDFS and SaberSim. I think it's pretty sweet.
Okay, show it again.
Yeah, hold it up like that. It's got the TrueDFS. Like it's kind of wild, but it's pretty cool. I think
that's cool. I like I said, yeah, I because I got brought on in January, so I'm assuming you guys ordered it in December. I did not.
Yeah. I think it might have been the end of the year thing.
I'm seeing you guys like post that, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I got my last DraftKings reward package.
Oh, nice.
I got a travel bag. That's my best. That's my best thing I got. Let me go.
I got the big DraftKings package coming in a couple days, I think.
Yeah. Let me see what else we're kind of talking about here. If you got to run or do something,
okay, I think I might get going, but I appreciate everything, man. And I wish everybody luck, and we'll see you guys shortly. And good luck, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Godspeed, Spider-Man. I'll see you later.
See you later, bud.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead. I got to get caught up on chat. I'll be live for probably another 20 minutes if you guys want to shoot the breeze or have fun, and just celebrate NASCAR being back and everything like that. And if you guys have, so yet again, I took a lot of the feedback from the first show on Thursday because I've just never done shows with 3 people before talking about this stuff. If you guys like this, please let me know. Like the video, like I don't even care about the YouTube algorithm. I need like actual feedback. If you guys enjoyed this show, or if you didn't enjoy it, what you guys would want, et cetera, to just, I want to be like top dog in the live streams here for NASCAR. Let me get caught up on the chat here. Let's see. It's just making random lineups using starters towards the back, a bad idea. It is not. Billy. Yeah, Bobby is a great teacher. So Sheets is honest. Like, this isn't even me like going on proportion. Straight up, I have never seen somebody win as much. I'm sure there's people who do on other things. I've just never seen the consistency that Sheets has had his entire life. He wins in everything, and that's why I was so happy to be a part of this company. Let's see. Okay, I'm caught up because I saw K9 Broncos won $100 on the truck race, just playing bottom dwellers and never doing anything before. Brand, I'm glad that, you know, good old Dale. I wanted to make a Dale Earnhardt joke, but I couldn't come up with it fast enough. But Dale, I'm glad that I've helped you over the years and that you've completely changed the way you approach this stuff. When we are, I mentioned this in the truck series video, but I'm going to mention it here because this might be a new audience. When we look at the cycle of how ownership is, how people build lineups, et cetera, we typically see this type of build stacked from the back. This was, you know, we can look back at Daytona specifically here. We'll go back here. That one's not lit up the way I wanted to. We use top 12. When we look at true, like, stacked from the back lines coming through, we had the last one was ago in the Cup Series. It was this Daytona race right here, the cutoff race 2020, ran to rain, and literally the front field of died. This was like a true stack from the back came through. Before that, it had been the Daytona 500 in 2020, the summer race in 2022. Those are like the last true time stack from the back worked in like the real public setting of like the Cup Series. Cause like those are like whenever you get like the stories of like, oh, this guy won $1 million on a parlay by playing all the guys in the back and stuff like that. When we look at the last time it's happened in the DFS in general between Cup, Xfinity, and trucks, it was the spring. It was the spring Xfinity Series contest where you had like, I'm not trying to bring this up. This is literally the only contest I have like in the folder that I can find like right off the bat. This is not the only reason. But like when you look at the guys that worked, it was like literally all shitters, all guys in the back. When we look at Sterling here, who killed the field. When we look at ASCS, I'm sure Clive is here somewhere. Stuff I can find it. This was like the last true time stack from the back work. So even then, we're looking at about a year removed from all that stuff actually out. Going back to the cycle of ownership, the top of the cycle is stack from the back happens. People are like, you got to stack from the back. And then we go to the next race and people see that stack from the back happen. They do it and they either don't win a lot of money or the race goes green or whatever and it doesn't work. And then they try it again, it doesn't work. Or they don't see the success they want to. And then try it again and then they still don't see the success they want to. And now we're back at like a year and a half point of people being like, well, I'm going to play some guys in the top 10. I'm going to play some guys in the top 15 in my lineups to get different because stack from the back doesn't work out. And where I'm at is this flow, this wave that happens about every year and a half. We're back at the point where, especially in a race like this, in a contest like this, 100,000 people, we're going to have people playing bad lineups with negative EV, with guys starting up front and getting stupid. I would absolutely implore people to just focus on the guys in the back. I think in worst case situations, truly, you get your money back. I know that sounds wild. I know that sounds incredibly stupid or ignorant to even quote or say, but the only way that doesn't happen is if this field doesn't crash. If they don't crash, you don't win any money. If we have any type of chaos in these races, we're going to be competing to cash. And to win, at that point, you're just rooting for luck. You're trying to build to put yourself in the best position to take advantage of the times where you're already cashing, you know, to get a top 10, a top 5, a top 3% line. And after that, you're just letting Jesus take the wheel and wherever it finishes there. So on and so forth. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed this and stuff. Yeah, Sheets is awesome, dude. He's so amazing. I don't know how for like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, a lot of the times, like, you know, he interviewed me on this channel and stuff, and we would talk, and we would talk through like my Patreon and stuff. I didn't know who he was. You know, I'm very ignorant to who a lot of people are until I'm blatantly told how successful they are. Like I not even thinking I'm better or worse than people. I just tend to not know who I'm talking to a lot of the times in the DFS space and stuff. How much, if any, chalk do you recommend in single entry? Please, for the love of all that is holy, don't play single entry today. I would recommend either play this with a lot of lines or don't play it at all. If you're going to play single entry and you're adamant on it, I would tell you to X out probably probably these people and just build with Wallace, Priest, Corolla, AJ, Barry, Gill, and Herbst, Hemrick, Gregson, Alfredo. That is the single entry build with upside compared to the chalk. That is very similar to how people will play in cash, because cash will just be like, if you're playing like, don't play cash, because like, Jesus Christ, the cash lineup is literally for these four guys with anybody back here. Like it. Let me see if I can find this image. I don't know if I can, but we are going to try. If I have to bring up my video, I will. I think I am. So give me a second here. So we are going to here. Let me bring this up. So yet again, this is the playlist that I created. It's over 5 hours, goes over everything in detail. Nobody's really watched it. Videos still don't have views. Don't know why, but whatever the case may be. These two races here was a like $10,000, $12,000 win, maybe 15. I don't remember. These two together were like 23,000. Talladega Spring Review, which is where I have this sheet from, that was like 2,200 or whatever. But when we're looking at, I gotta find, may have been this one. I gotta look at these videos real fast and look through. I had to post it. There's no way I didn't post. Yeah, so it is this one. Okay, so now we're looking at videos upon videos. This was, damn it, I'm not showing it fully. Let's see if I go through. I know I talk about it, but I don't know if I showed it correctly. I don't, damn it. So what I'm trying to answer with is, when we look at how lineups score in terms of single entry and cash like that, as I've stated, if you're building optimally for cash, you are going to have a real chance of winning GPPs. Like, I can't understand the disconnect between, like, people understand what a cash lineup is, but they don't play them enough in the GPPs. Like, that's insane. This is a situation where you just want to play the guys in the back as possible. Like that's literally what it is. And so going back to your single entry question and stuff like that, you're going to be super, super chalky. Like, single entry and cash is super chalky. Lineups are going to score very similar. We're literally just trying to compete against, we're trying to beat all the idiots just playing like the front half of the field, and then getting different between this. Like, we're playing like 4D chess. Like, the people who know what they're doing understand that we're playing the guys back here. How do we get different in a pool of like 16 drivers? That's the main thing to answer here. No cash. You play 10 single entry line. That's insane, man. Oh, I know you. So I didn't even look at your name. 10 single entry lines, man. That's insane. Also, it also depends on what salary or what entry fee it is. Like, if I was doing single entry of like a 1, 2, 3, or 5, I wouldn't really worry about it. But if I'm doing a single entry in like a 12 or like a $24, what other one do they have? I guess they might have a 33 or 48, even more expensive. Yeah, the pool is just 24th on back and trying to just fade the chalk here and stuff. Like, speaking optimally, man, like, I'm gonna be really pissed when Ryan Blaney is optimal today, man. I'm gonna be really, really mad. Like, please, Lord, just wreck Ryan Blaney. Like, that's like my main take. Bubba Wallace, sorry, man. Please get involved in the wreck. We need those two guys to run to issues of some form or fashion, man. That is that. I think, because I didn't really get any answers of like, who you guys rooting to wreck for. It's Daytona, man. We want to see flips. We want to see crashes and stuff. Who do you guys want to see crash? Who do you guys want to see flip? We've had a flip and a half. We had a flip in the truck race. Awesome. Almost flipped in the ARCA race. Now we get another doubleheader tomorrow. I mean, this is like one of the best opening Daytona weeks ever in terms of racing. The intelligence that these drivers are showing is like slightly above like moss on like a tree stump. Like, these guys are racing like a bunch of idiots, man. How we don't wreck any of the fields tomorrow is going to be beyond me. just play the 25. Have fun, man. This is one of those races, one of those days we just gotta get in there and race and stuff. Yeah, let me go ahead and put this playlist in the chat really fast for you guys. Because now, since we aren't racing today, we're racing tomorrow. You got plenty of time to listen. Go on a walk, go to the gym, go make food, whatever. I put this together so I don't have to kind of talk about the same stuff all the time, but that is the playlist. If you want more of this in detail, more stuff going through like actual like how people have scored and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I think that's mainly about it, guys. We've had a good show, had phenomenal viewings on all the videos so far. I can't thank you guys enough for that. All the new people who have watched me here, all the people who have followed me from my old channel and my own Patreon to TrueDFS and stuff. I really appreciate it. I understand if you haven't joined yet. I mean, it's plate racing here in Atlanta. Come join in March. I understand. Secondly, I'm going to Atlanta next week. I have season tickets to Atlanta because it's the best racetrack on the circuit. So I won't be live next week because I'll be at the track. I'm sure sheets will be live for some of them. My projections and stuff will still be up. I'll still do preview videos this week. I've already done some Atlanta videos on this channel. You can just click the channel and go to videos. I've already made some Atlanta videos there. Atlanta is so weird. It's so interesting. I hate that people are grouping it with Daytona and Atlanta or Daytona and Talladega because I do not believe that is the wisest thing to do. I think it's its own entity. And since we've only had it for about 2 years now, trying to dissect of what's going to happen and how to build for that is an entirely different subject. We'll talk about that more in some videos this week. But yeah, I just wanted to say I'm not going to be here on the channel next week because I will be at Atlanta. So if you see me there, I'd love to shake your hand like I've done with a few people in Phoenix a couple years ago and just say thank you that you have watched my stuff and everything. I think that is it. Thank you guys for joining me here. Thank you guys for watching this for an hour or so. Best of luck in the contest, and I will see you guys in the next live show that I do, which will be for whatever races after Atlanta. I'll see you guys later. Best of luck today, y'all. Root for Rex. Be the worst kind of race fan. Root for flips. Root for all that. I'll see you guys later.